The air was thick and heavy, filled with the hum of city noise and the many thoughts running through my head. I was searching, but not for something I could see. Life lately had been like a road that kept splitting off, each path darker and more uncertain than the last. That day, as I sat alone in my apartment, an old family Bible caught my eye on the shelf. My grandma used to read from it, but I'd never given it much thought. I flipped it open to the book of Proverbs, and the words there hit me hard. They were the missing puzzle pieces of my thoughts. It felt like a roadmap. It starts with, "My son, if you accept my words and store up my commands within you, turning your ear to wisdom and applying your heart to understanding." My heart almost stopped. The words seemed alive. They spoke to the part of me that was tired of the quick fixes, tired of shallow choices that never seemed to get me anywhere. This wasn't just about knowing stuff. It was about going deeper. I read on, feeling like each line was chipping away at the fog in my mind. It talked about calling out for insight and searching for wisdom as if it were silver, hidden treasure. I was mesmerized, drawn into this idea of a wisdom that wasn't easy, a truth you had to work for. It was raw, but it promised something real, something valuable. The verses spoke of a wisdom that could protect me from making choices I'd regret, from paths that seemed bright but led to nothing but darkness. They told of discernment as a guardian, wisdom as a shield. I wanted that kind of clarity, something powerful enough to guide me through all the noise. Then, it went on to warn about dangerous paths, deceptive choices, voices that would whisper, "This way is better." Those voices, it said, were from people who had left the straight paths to walk in dark ways. I shivered, thinking of people I knew, people I'd even followed, who'd made ambitious promises that never worked out. This was a description of the world around me, painted with truth and sharp insight. In that moment, I knew this was what I'd been searching for. Not just words, but a guide, something real to lean on. I closed the Bible and sat there, overwhelmed yet somehow certain. It made me want to dig deeper, to seek out this wisdom, to find that treasure hidden in words centuries old, but more relevant than anything I'd ever read online. I wanted the protection it promised, the peace and discernment it offered. It also reminded me of the night before. I'd been up late, scrolling through social media, watching the world showcase success, relationships, fun, and freedom. It was then, out of nowhere, I heard it. A whisper, like a thought that wasn't my own. If you seek wisdom as silver, search for it as hidden treasure. The words struck me hard, each one reverberating through my chest. Silver? Hidden treasure? I stopped scrolling, trying to shake off the feeling, but the phrase lingered, stronger than before. I felt a shiver that seemed to echo in my very soul. I couldn't ignore it. Then again, that same voice. If you call out for insight, if you cry aloud for understanding, then you will understand the fear of the Lord. I felt my pulse quicken. It wasn't the booming voice I'd imagined wisdom might have. Instead, it was calm, steady, like a familiar friend I hadn't heard from in a long time. I don't know how long I sat up that night, letting the words sink into my heart. There was a part of me that wanted to laugh it off, to brush it aside as just some passing thought. But another part of me, deeper and older than the rest, told me to listen. It was more like a key, unlocking something that had been locked up tight. But now, it makes sense. The choices I'd been wrestling with, the questions that haunted me, they weren't just decisions to make. They were a path I was choosing, one step at a time. The weight of that realization pressed on me, and in that moment, I understood what it meant to find wisdom as a treasure, something so precious, it could change everything. A thought even clearer hit me. Wisdom guards your way, protecting you from the darkness, from people who smile with hidden intentions. I shivered, remembering friends who seemed good until they weren't, promises that turned hollow in the end. There was more in those pages, I was sure of it, a whole lifetime of guidance waiting to be uncovered. When I finally stood up, I felt different, as if I'd glimpsed something too big to explain. I wanted to share it, but who would understand? If wisdom really was a treasure, maybe this journey wasn't over. Maybe it was just the beginning.